So tell us a little bit about your job with World Vision, because, I mean, it sounds like to me you get to go on a lot of trips and see a lot of different places around the world. There was Uganda, there was the Solomon Islands. So what is your role with World Vision?
Yeah, so Myra, I'm the head of fundraising partnerships. So I look after a bunch of our fundraising teams, including our schools and youth team, which is the 40-hour challenge.
Yep. So
and the church team and a few others.
Does everybody send their little fundraising booklets to you, do they?
Yep, I collect them all and I know.
You're like counting the coins. Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
And Penny has given $3.50. Yeah, that's you? No?
Yeah. We were talking about this the other day, Hal. I don't know if you listeners remember, or their parents might remember, but back in the day, you used to get sponsored per hour.
Yes, I do remember
remember
this.
that?
You
And
know,
you
you
get
go to the
coins for-
neighbour
yeah.
and she'll be like, look, I'll give you 50 cents an hour.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you'd go back and you'd collect it in your little Ziploc bag
That's
and bring
it.
it back to school.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're in charge of overseeing that for the whole country?
Correct.
Whoa,
Yep.
that's a big job.
Yeah,
Thankfully,
it's
it's
a real
not
privilege.
cash anymore. It's mostly done online, right?
Mostly, but then if you do if you're at your school or youth group and they do a, mufti day or some other fundraising, then
True.
typically you bring cash.
Okay.
But
Okay.
mostly it's online.
So you look after like school fundraising and stuff for the World Vision 40-hour challenge, and you were able to go on this trip to the Solomon Islands, which is, I guess, what the 40-hour challenge this year, the proceeds are going to the work there.
That's right, yes.
So you've seen it firsthand?
Yeah, my first time to Solomon Islands, and it was amazing. I mean, we've talked about the different trips in the past, and of all the countries, it's one of the most beautiful I've ever visited.
Wow.
It was just amazing.
For what reason?
Well, I mean, we had good weather. That really helps.
Okay.
So, and most of our time was on the island of Guadalcanal, and there's not a lot of roads in Guadalcanal, so you travel by boat.
Wow.
So, you're on the largely open ocean in a jet
Whoa.
boat. The water was like glass. It's not always like that, but it was like that for us. Beautiful, lush green islands, blue sky. You're pinching yourself. Oh, this is my job. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So how come the focus this year, I think, is on Solomon Islands? Why is it there? If it sounds so glorious and so beautiful, why choose the tamariki, the children in the Solomon Islands, for the kaupapa this year?
Such a great question. Well, I mean, I think one of the little-known facts is that poverty in the Pacific, especially the Western, I'm doing my northeast, southwest, Western Pacific, is as poor as anywhere in the world. The poverty there is extreme. We did some research on 1,000 children, small island states and small island states in the Pacific last year. 47% suffered from stunting.
Oh, wow.
Which is a outcome of extreme malnutrition.
Malnutrition, right. 47%.
That's in the Pacific. We're not talking
That's pretty close to
sub-Saharan
home.
Africa.
Yeah.
We're not talking the normal places that you might think of extreme poverty.
Wow.
That's in the Pacific.
Okay, so how is the money that's raised this year through the 40-hour challenge going to help these children?
Yeah, great question. So one of the things we notice is beautiful communities, these villages, usually seaside, they're, we would look at it like, what an amazing holiday destination.
Right, yeah.
When you live there, though, and you're a self-sustaining family or community, there are a lot of things that impact. You're living off the land. 80% of rural farmers are struggling, and most of the population in the Solomon Islands live off the land. And so that means when the environment impacts you, your livelihood's impacted. So things like climate change or the changes in the environment. So if the water level's rising, what they're finding is more high tides are going over, so that salt water into the places they're growing their crops affects the water that they're drinking. All those sort of elements can be really challenging. Not only that, but when the weather is rough and, some of the kids we saw, all the kids we saw, canoe their way to school if they're on a different island from their school. Yeah, which sounds kind of cool when the weather's great. And they've got their carved out canoes and...
I guess we think about it in the sense, you have to walk to school in the rain sometimes. These guys are out there on their little canoe, right?
Well, they actually asked the question of
poor
our
weather.
young people that. They said, when the weather's bad, do you still get to go to school?
Wow.
So, because you can imagine sending your 8-year-old on a canoe across the open ocean to get to school.
Yeah.
The weather goes bad, you're not going.
Yeah,
And so that impacts education. So there's a lot of those elements that when you're vulnerable to the environment because you're living off the land, then your livelihood is affected when that's affected.
Yeah. So, Jono, you and I on our trip together, I mean, this is a different different, place in the world. But when we were in Uganda, we saw a lot of different projects that World Vision was undertaking in the communities and that they were able to help with and fund and to kind of resource and get off the ground, right?
Yeah.
In the Solomon Islands, is this work that World Vision is doing there, is this relatively new? Or like what kind of projects are already set up there in the Solomon Islands that World Vision are helping to support and facilitate?
Yeah, so there's a variety of things. Climate smart agriculture is one, so helping find the crops that work in the changing environment. Helping provide, one of the things we saw which was kind of cool is, so when we were in Uganda, we saw the tree planting, or regrowing trees.
The farmer-managed natural regeneration.
I was trying to avoid the technical name.
FMNR.
Yeah, FMNR, that's right, yeah.
Yeah.
So in the Solomons, it looks different. There it's mangrove planting.
Oh. Is this to like kind of help what? With the tides?
Two things. One, that it's a protection layer, but also that's where the fish tend to be. They tend to reside there in the rough times. So regrowing the mangroves or helping mangroves regrow is one area. Helping provide clean water is another element, and then other agricultural techniques to help protect the farming.
Wow.
Seawalls. There's a lot of seawalls that have been built. Not by us, they were built by the community.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, those are the sort of engagements. So more and more of that is what we're looking to do with the funding from the challenge this year.
Oh, wonderful. I mean, like you just said, I really liked that you said this. You said the seawalls that have been built, and then you said not us, but the community there. And I think that's something that World Vision does so beautifully that I saw firsthand, is that World Vision is there to support the community, right? It's very much, resourcing the local community to educate them and to kind of let them be sustainable themselves once World Vision kind of moves off. It leaves them with the resources, it leaves them with the education that is needed to do the work themselves. And I think that is so cool. So incredible work that World Vision is doing. And let's get some money together for these kids and the amazing things that World Vision have planned for the community in Solomon Islands this year. 40-hour challenge. How do you support it yourself, Jono?
Great question. Last year I tried to do te reo only for the 40 hours. Yeah, my wife speaks and my kids have levels of fluency. It was really, really hard. I was silent most of the weekend.
Wow, that's like full immersion,
right?
right?
Yeah, it was. It was really, really difficult.
Oh, awesome.
This year, no tech would be a treat rather than a challenge for me.
Yeah.
It's nice to turn things off. Although I still, want to stream a bit of Netflix, or hopefully my sport is on technology.
No.
But,
you can go to the sport
I'll go
game
to the
live.
game, yeah.
Exactly. But you pick the challenge. What can you do? They are encouraging you to do 40 hours offline. But that's the thing, is you pick the challenge. Just register now if you haven't already. 40-hour challenge is happening from the 13th to the 15th of June. Thank you so much, Jono. And I hope you enjoy, your challenge this year.